Town, a place to live and work. It's hearth and home to miners all across Canada. Sometimes from the outside, it's hard to get the feel of it. Certainly it was hard for Bruce Adams. I remember when Bruce came back to work at number 14, he thought Coal Town looked he'd come 1,000 miles in a day coach. And he got in one of those days when the wind blows the smoke from the coke ovens over everything. I guess the place looked pretty strange to him after life in the city and in the army. He began to wonder why he'd volunteered to come back, and he tried to explain things to Mary McDonald.
All former miners go back to the pit.
Well, is that so awful?
Bloody.
My dad's a miner. He's been a miner all his life.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
Oh, John! Oh, John! Here's a young man who wants a roof for the night.
Why, sure, Mary. Any soldier's welcome here. Bring him in.
No, look here.
Oh, no, you go on in there and get a good night's rest.
So old John Roberts took Bruce Adams into his house. And that's where he first started to get acquainted with Coal Town.
Well, how are you, Bruce?
Who told you my name?
Nobody has to tell me who you are. I work with Bob Adams, your dad, in number 6. And you look just like him.
That was my dad. He was away almost 6 months when it happened. There it is. That's how it must have sounded.
Yes, that's how it sounded, all right. That's how it always sounds when there's trouble underground.
There it is. The whole thing, just as I remember it.
That was it, pretty much. Well, you make yourself at home, Bruce. I've got to get down to the pit. When I get back, we'll talk things over. We're pretty careful underground. We know the men we work with, and we look out for each other. We can't go into the working place until the company checks for gas and sees that the roof is safe. Before we go in, our lamps are inspected, and we're told how safe our working places are. Nowadays, when we need to increase coal production, we're glad to see modern machinery speeding up the job. After the face has been undercut and sheared, we bore holes and then set charges to bring down the coal by shot firing. Now it's the work of the loaders. They shovel the coal onto shaker conveyors that take it from the face to the haulage way. A man may shovel as much as 10 to 12 tons in a day. Coal goes out in cars onto the main haulage way, and it sometimes has to travel 5 or 7 miles underground before it gets to the shaft bottom. Cars pass the next shift waiting for their turn to dig. At the change of shift, the drivers take the pit horses off to their underground stables to be watered and fed, and the miners go up to the surface. Up at the tipple, the cars are weighed to check the output of the contract miners. Then we empty the cars, sort the coal for size, take out all the rock, and sometimes make the slack into briquettes. Then we load the coal onto the belts that take it to the railroads, but some of it goes up on bucket conveyors to the coke ovens. At the coke ovens, we burn the coal under forced draft to drive out the impurities. After that, you can turn it into almost anything: creosote and tar, aniline dyes, sulfur drugs, and alcohol and rubber. And it helps to make the steel plate for ships and tanks and the ingots for guns. We miners fight with coal.
Back from an 8-hour shift with the weekly paycheck, the miner's statement. Old John was looking at the week's deductions, what we call the check-off. And to Bruce, it seemed as if there was still an awful lot of them.
Washhouse 50 cents, blacksmith 50 cents. Haven't they thought of a new gag yet?
Let me tell you about the deductions they used to make. There was,
And I don't want to hear about it.
but it's better in the mines now with the union and the bosses thinking more about the men. Making conditions better is part of our job.
Yeah, look at that statement.
Well, there's still enough left for a drink.
So John Roberts took Bruce down with him to the hall for a drink. It's a spot where the miners can meet and talk about their jobs. It's like any place the world over where men get together to swap yarns and beef about their work. We call it the Poor Man's Club. There was Joe Blake complaining his pay was docked because the mine was short of timber. Over in one corner, Ed Major was grousing because he didn't know how much he'd got in the savings portion of his income tax. There was Bill Kornichuk claiming he was short-weighted because his car never went over the scale. It was the usual grumbling and joking and talking that always goes on when men get together over a drink. But Bruce was still fresh to it, and it got on his nerves.
Take my cup. Take my cup. No more beer, sold.
Sold out. Even old Walter Gray had a grouse. Meanwhile, Bruce went for a walk down by the coke ovens at the edge of town. He'd seen the miners at work and in their off hours, and as he walked, he thought about them. They were beginning to be real people to him, men whose lives were as warm and human as his own. When Sunday came around, he went to the picnic with Mary MacDonald and the kids from the school.
Can you get a good drink that window?
Oh, boy, what a day. This is the stuff for me. Even Coal Town looks fine.
Oh, it is.
Without Coal Town down there and all the other coal towns, we wouldn't have our homes or our cars or our radios or all the other things we take for granted.
Hey, look out!
I suppose that wouldn't be possible either without coal.
Not a chance. You're stuck.
Chariot with the 16 white horses prancing, and they lived happily ever after in the town.
Where are you going?
Down to look at Coal Town.
A look at Coal Town, and somehow the place looked different. It was opening up to him. It was beginning to talk. As he walked along, he came to one of our cooperative housing projects. Instead of a straggling, untidy town, he was seeing how the miners get together to plan their homes and build them by their own labor. And he saw the neighborly little things that give our mining towns their strength.
I do hope we'll finish before Mother and Dad will get here.
There was a miner and his wife worrying over a paint job. But Coal Town's a friendly place.
Don't worry. Going fishing?
Yep.
Are you all going fishing, fellas?
Yeah,
you
right.
Got any worms? Well, to try out the new rod. Ah, gee, fellas, you shouldn't have done this. Is that colonial yellow you're using?
Sure. As Bruce went on through the town, he realized what we've done for ourselves. He saw our libraries, financed by the miners, for studying labor problems and learning the how and why of things. He began to look more closely at the signs on the storefronts along Main Street. And what he saw there showed him a new kind of life. He was learning that there's almost no limit to what you can do when you work together. Down the street, the union local was having an open-air meeting. And Bruce dropped by to listen. The men were the same fellas he'd met over a drink, but he was looking at them with new eyes.
Boys, you all know we need more coal. We've got to win this war. And before we can get the guns and machines, we have to have the coal. If we don't, not only on the front, but here at home, everything we fought for will go. It all adds up. How can we produce more coal?
Yeah, how?
Shovel only holds so much. The government needs coal so bad, why don't we send our boys back? The ones they took from the army. I know the government needs soldiers, but why don't they take non-essential workers first if they want increased coal production?
Get a soapbox, Willie.
If they want more, let them pay more.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't you go twisting my word.
Order, please. Boys, you've got the wrong slant. I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. We've all dug coal together, and I know the things you're beefing about. But you can't get anywhere by just calling names New needs have to be met by new methods. Greater coal production can be achieved only by putting together all the brains and effort of all of us who know coal. The boys on the battle line can't come back. They have a job to do, but they're looking to us to do our part here, so that when they come back with their job well done, they'll find out that we, too, have made a better place for them.
A better place for them. A place for all the miners who go down into the pits to dig out coal. That was what Bruce was learning from the men of Coal Town. He was finding out the way miners all over the world have built communities that have a strength and a faith in themselves. Next day, Bruce Adams reported for duty with the night shift. He's found that all of us miners are fighting the same battle as the soldiers in the front line, and he's with us too, fighting together so that we can win the war and build a better world.